Levels of assurance. As we will see, there are different levels of assurance that can be provided and that are required depending on the assurance engagement. Now, there is two key types: reasonable assurance and limited assurance. It's important to note that it is not possible to provide absolute assurance or 100% confidence in an assurance engagement. Firstly, looking at reasonable assurance. Now, this is sometimes referred to as positive assurance, and this is because of the language that is used to express the opinion. With a reasonable assurance or positive assurance opinion, it sets out that the subject matter agrees with the criteria. For example, the language in the report would say, "In our opinion, the subject matter has been prepared in accordance with the criteria." That phrase, "has been prepared," is positive, and that is what gives rise to the nature or the description of positive assurance. Now, this is the highest possible level of assurance that can be given. As we saw, it is not possible to give absolute assurance, and this is the level of assurance that is required if you have an external audit engagement. So the auditor's report is always seeking to provide reasonable assurance or positive assurance, a positive opinion, in relation to the underlying subject matter, thinking about our financial statements. The alternative to reasonable assurance is what we call limited assurance. Now, this can sometimes be referred to as negative assurance. This is not to do with the actual opinion itself, but again, the language that is used to express that opinion. It will tell us that the subject matter is reasonable in the circumstances, and an example of the wording is that it would say in the report, "In our opinion, nothing suggests that the subject matter has not been prepared in accordance with the criteria." That key phrase there, "has not been prepared," is where the term negative assurance or negative opinion may come along. It's not to do with the fact that we are disagreeing with what's going on, but rather than saying things have been prepared in accordance, we're saying nothing suggests that they have not been prepared in accordance. This is also referred to as a moderate level of assurance versus the high that we saw for a reasonable assurance. When we think about our review engagements, remember those were ones looking ahead, potentially, for example, a cash flow forecast. We would provide limited assurance, which is a lower level of assurance compared to a reasonable assurance level. Let's have a look at this question. First of all, think back. Why is it that we can't provide reasonable assurance for all types of assurance engagement? You can pause the recording and press play when you are ready to continue. When we are talking about the different types of assurance engagements, we have, taking two examples, our statutory external audit, which is all about reviewing the financial statements of an organisation. Those financial statements are historical information. We are able to obtain evidence or proof to support that information. Whereas if we were to look at something like a cash flow forecast, an example of a review engagement, that is a prediction of the future. That is us looking ahead. We would not have that same type of evidence available to support the numbers that we have been provided with. Because it's impossible to collect that evidence and to get the same level of confidence, we cannot provide the same level of assurance. Instead, what we would do is look at how that information has been prepared, what assumptions have been made or models have been used to create the forecast or to calculate the different sales levels, for example. And we would then want to conclude that nothing suggests that the forecast is not reasonable. And that is an example of negative assurance.